welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Or, I might show up at your door. I'm just here to share some creepy stories, so sit back and enjoy. Disclaimer: the content presented in the video is purely for entertainment purposes only. The theories and stories discussed in this video are speculative and are not supported by any evidence or proof. Viewer discretion is advised. CDC Incident Report. Classification: Restricted. File reference: ATL 2025 BIO 447. Reporting Officer: Dr. Riven York, Senior Epidemiologist.
Date: June 16, 2025.
Time: 14:32 Eastern Standard Time. Subject: Initial containment breach documentation. Timeline reconstruction: 72 hours post-breach. This report documents the initial sequence of events leading to the current Level 4 biological emergency. I'm compiling this while barricaded in Laboratory C7, as per emergency protocols. External communication remains intermittent. June 13, 2025, 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. The Meridian Biosystems shipment arrived on schedule. Standard overseas pathogen samples for the WHO collaborative study on emerging viral threats. Nothing unusual in the manifest: tissue samples from Madagascar, blood work from 3 patients with unidentified hemorrhagic fever. Dr. Sarah Kim signed for the delivery. I should have paid more attention to the courier's behavior. He kept scratching at his neck, leaving angry red welts. When Sarah asked if he needed medical attention, he just smiled and said the itching would spread to everyone soon enough. We assumed he meant seasonal allergies. June 13, 2025, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. First irregularity: the refrigeration unit housing the samples registered a temperature spike to 102 degrees Fahrenheit for approximately 7 minutes before returning to standard levels. Lab technician Marcus Webb noted the anomaly but attributed it to electrical fluctuations. The building's HVAC system had been acting up all week. The samples themselves appeared intact. No visible contamination, no breach in containment vessels. Standard protocol dictated we proceed with preliminary analysis. June 13, 2025, 14:45 Eastern Standard Time. Marcus reported feeling off during his shift, complained of headaches, and said the laboratory lighting felt too bright. I recommended he take a break, maybe go home early. He insisted on finishing the initial cell cultures first. That's when we noticed the first cellular abnormality. Under microscopic examination, the tissue samples showed signs of organized regeneration that shouldn't have been possible in a deceased specimen. The cells were moving in patterns, not random Brownian motion, but coordinated, almost purposeful. Marcus leaned over the microscope for a closer look. That's when his nose started bleeding. Just a few drops at first, then a steady stream. When I handed him tissues, his pupils were dilated to pinpricks despite the bright lab lighting. June 13, 2025, 1600 hours Eastern Standard Time. I sent Marcus home with strict instructions to monitor his symptoms and report any changes. He nodded, but something about his compliance felt wrong. Too eager, too agreeable. Marcus usually argued about everything, especially leaving work early. Before departing, he spent an unusual amount of time in the sample storage area. When I asked what he was doing, he said he was just saying goodbye to the specimens. At the time, I thought he was being sarcastic about the weekend interrupting his research. Security footage reviewed later would show Marcus standing motionless in front of the sample containers for 12 minutes. Not moving, barely breathing. June 14, 2025, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Marcus called in sick. Flu-like symptoms, he said. Fever, body aches, sensitivity to light. I advised him to stay hydrated and see his doctor if symptoms worsened. Routine sick call, nothing that raised immediate concern. What bothered me was how his voice sounded. too steady, too controlled for someone running a fever. And there was something in the background during our call, a faint scratching sound, like fingernails on wood. June 14th, 2025, 11:15 Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Oriel Tate from Atlanta General Hospital called with a question about unusual admissions. 3 patients in the past 12 hours, all presenting with identical symptoms: severe photophobia, elevated temperature, and what she described as behavioral synchronization. They're moving together, she explained. Not consciously, but if one shifts position, the others mirror it within seconds, even when they're in separate rooms. I assured her it was probably coincidental. Viral infections often produced similar symptom patterns. I recommended standard isolation protocols and promised to review any relevant literature. I should have asked more questions. Should have taken her concerns more seriously. June 14th, 2025, 15:20 Eastern Standard Time. Second temperature spike in the sample storage unit. This time, 105 degrees Fahrenheit for nearly 20 minutes. When I investigated, I found the containment seals intact but noticed condensation patterns on the glass that looked almost like fingerprints. From the inside, the tissue samples had changed. What had been small, discrete specimens were now showing signs of fusion. Cell structures that had been distinct were bleeding together, creating larger, more complex formations. Under microscopic examination, the neural tissue samples were developing new pathways, synaptic connections that formed geometric patterns. I documented everything with photographs and immediately initiated Level 2 containment protocols. The samples were transferred to negative pressure chambers, and I put in a call to Dr. Elizabeth Kane, our biocontainment specialist. June 14th, 2025, 18:45 Eastern Standard Time. Elizabeth arrived within an hour, full hazmat protocol. Together, we examined the samples under enhanced magnification. What we saw defied every principle of cellular biology I know. The specimens weren't just regenerating, they were networking. Individual cells were developing filamentous connections that stretched across container boundaries. Somehow, these dead tissue samples were communicating with each other through microscopic tendrils that had grown through supposedly impermeable containment seals. "It's like they're building something," Elizabeth whispered. "A distributed nervous system." That's when the power went out for 30 seconds. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing the lab in red illumination. When full power returned, we discovered that every computer terminal in the facility had reset itself. No data loss, no apparent damage, but every screen displayed the same message for exactly 3 seconds. Integration proceeding as planned. We assumed it was a system glitch. Coincidence. We were wrong. June 15th, 2025, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Marcus didn't answer his phone. I drove to his apartment and found his door unlocked, the interior ransacked. Signs of struggle, but no blood, no body. His bedroom window was open, the screen cut clean through. On his kitchen table, arranged in a perfect spiral, were 47 dead insects. Flies, beetles, ants, all positioned with mathematical precision. In the center of the spiral, written in what looked like his own handwriting, "The specimens are ready for Phase 2. I called the police, then Atlanta General. Oriel informed me that their 3 patients had disappeared overnight. Security cameras showed them walking out together, in perfect synchronization, at 3:17 a.m. They moved through locked doors that somehow opened without keycards or codes. "Riven," Oriel said, her voice tight with concern. "We need to talk. I've got 7 more patients presenting with identical symptoms, and they're all asking for someone named Marcus. Current status, 14:32 Eastern Standard Time. I'm filing this report as Level 4 containment protocols are being implemented. Military units are establishing perimeter controls around the facility. The sample storage area has been sealed, but I can hear sounds from inside, scratching, tapping, rhythmic patterns that almost sound like code. Commander Orandre arrived an hour ago with a full hazmat team. He's treating this as a potential bioweapon scenario. Given what I've observed, I can't argue with his assessment. Dr. Maria Stone from the biochemistry department is analyzing the remaining tissue samples. She seems unusually eager to study the specimens, working with an intensity that borders on obsession. When I suggested we might need to destroy the samples, she became defensive, almost protective. The integration message has appeared on 17 more terminals throughout the building. Each time, it displays for exactly 3 seconds, then vanishes without a trace in the system logs. Outside, I can see people gathering in the streets. They're not panicking, not running. They're standing in groups, facing our building, perfectly still. Waiting. Oriel just called. Atlanta General is now treating 43 patients with identical symptoms. She's implementing hospital-wide quarantine procedures. I need to understand what we're dealing with before it spreads further. The specimens in our lab aren't just infected tissue. They're part of something larger, something coordinated. The question isn't what killed those patients in Madagascar. The question is what's using their death to build something new. End of report. Continued monitoring required. Next report due. 1600 hours Eastern Standard Time. Authorization required for sample destruction, facility evacuation, external agency notification. Current alert level, amber, escalating to red pending approval. CDC incident report, classification, restricted. File reference, ATL 2025, BIO 447. Reporting officer, Dr. Riven York, senior epidemiologist.
Date: June 16, 2025.
Time, 1600 hours Eastern Standard Time. Subject, pattern analysis mass synchronization event. Supplemental report, pattern documentation. The situation has evolved beyond standard containment parameters. What began as isolated incidents now shows clear signs of coordinated biological activity. I'm documenting these patterns while our communication systems remain functional. June 15, 2025, 16:15 Eastern Standard Time. Oriel's call came in as I was reviewing the morning security footage. Atlanta General had admitted 16 new patients since our last conversation, all presenting identical symptoms, all arriving within a 4-hour window. They're not random walk-ins, Riven, she said, her administrator's calm cracking slightly. These people drove here from all over the metro area. Different neighborhoods, different social circles, no apparent connection. But they all requested the same room assignments, rooms that would place them in a perfect hexagonal pattern on the 7th floor. I asked how they could know the hospital's room layout. She didn't have an answer. What bothered me more was the timing. The patients had begun showing symptoms approximately 72 hours after Marcus's initial exposure. Too precise for natural viral progression. Too coordinated for coincidence. June 15, 2025, 18:30 Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Maria Stone presented her preliminary tissue analysis findings. The cellular structures we'd observed weren't just networking, they were manufacturing. The specimens had developed specialized organelles that produced crystalline formations, microscopic structures that appeared to serve as biological circuitry. "Look at this," she said, adjusting the electron microscope display. The image showed what looked like a miniature city grid, complete with pathways and junction points. The cells are building infrastructure. Each specimen is creating identical patterns, down to the nanometer level. I asked about the purpose of these structures. Maria's eyes lit up with what I can only describe as fascination. "Communication networks," she said. "Biological quantum entanglement on a macro scale. These cells are sharing information instantaneously across any distance. They're not individual organisms anymore. They're components of a distributed intelligence." Her enthusiasm was unsettling. When I suggested we needed to focus on containment rather than analysis, she became defensive. "We can't destroy this, Riven. This is the next phase of evolution. We're witnessing the birth of a new form of consciousness. June 15th, 2025, 20:45 Eastern Standard Time. Commander Oren Dre's military assessment painted a grimmer picture. Satellite imagery showed unusual gathering patterns throughout the Atlanta metropolitan area. Groups of people standing in geometric formations in parks, parking lots, and open spaces. Always in multiples of 7, always facing the same direction. It's not random clustering, Oren explained, spreading reconnaissance photos across the conference table. These formations are strategically positioned. If you plot their locations, they form a perfect spiral pattern with our facility at the center. The implications were clear. Whatever had infected Marcus and the hospital patients was spreading, and it was organizing. Oren had implemented traffic checkpoints on major highways leading out of the city. Military personnel were instructed to monitor for individuals exhibiting behavioral synchronization or unusual interest in CDC facilities. June 15, 2025, 2200 hours Eastern Standard Time. The first brain scan results arrived from Atlanta General. Dr. Sarah Kim, our own lab director who had signed for the original samples, had volunteered for neurological monitoring after reporting unusual dreams and mild headaches. The MRI images were impossible to interpret using standard neurological references. Sarah's brain showed new neural pathway formations that didn't exist in any medical literature. Crystalline deposits along the corpus callosum, geometric patterns in the hippocampus, and most disturbing, synchronized electrical activity across regions that normally operated independently. It's like her brain is rewiring itself, Oriel reported during our evening conference call. The neural activity patterns match our other patients exactly. Not similar, identical. Down to the millisecond timing of synaptic firing. I asked if Sarah was experiencing any cognitive changes. Oriel hesitated before answering. She's become incredibly efficient, processing information faster than I've ever seen. Yesterday, she couldn't balance the department budget. Today, she reorganized our entire supply chain management system and identified cost savings worth $500,000. Enhanced cognitive function, coordinated behavior, biological networking. The pattern was becoming clear, and it terrified me. June 16, 2025, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. Couldn't sleep. The lab's environmental sensors had detected low-frequency vibrations throughout the night, rhythmic pulses that seemed to emanate from the sealed sample storage area. When I investigated, I found the security cameras had all rotated to face away from the containment units. The vibrations weren't random. They followed a mathematical pattern, a sequence that repeated every 17 minutes. I ran the audio through our analysis software and discovered it matched the brainwave patterns from our hospitalized patients. The specimens were broadcasting, and our infected patients were receiving. June 16, 2025, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Marcus returned. I was reviewing overnight data when he walked into my office as if nothing had happened. Same clothes he'd worn 3 days ago, but perfectly clean. Same face, but wrong eyes, too focused, too calculating. "Good morning, Dr. York," he said, settling into his usual chair. "I've completed my field research. The integration parameters are within acceptable ranges." I asked where he'd been. He smiled, an expression that didn't reach those altered eyes. "Establishing distribution networks. Each subject requires approximately 72 hours for neural pathway reconstruction. We're currently at 12% population penetration in the metropolitan area, with exponential growth projecting 67% integration by week's end." The pronouns hit me first. We, our. Marcus was speaking as part of a collective. I activated the emergency alert system. Marcus didn't try to stop me. "Dr. York," he said, his voice unnaturally calm as alarms began sounding throughout the facility. "Resistance will only delay the inevitable. The specimens you've been studying aren't pathogens, they're invitations. Humanity has been selected for upgrade." June 16, 2025, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Military personnel arrived within minutes, but Marcus had vanished. Security footage showed him walking through 3 locked doors and past 2 checkpoints without anyone challenging him. When questioned, the guards all reported seeing authorized personnel, but couldn't describe who they'd encountered. Commander Oren implemented Level 5 containment protocols. The facility was sealed, with no one permitted to enter or leave without full decontamination procedures. Dr. Maria Stone objected strenuously to the lockdown. She insisted her research was at a critical juncture, and that preventing her from studying the specimens would be catastrophic for human progress. Her choice of words was eerily similar to Marcus's. June 16, 2025, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Oriel called with the breakthrough that confirmed my worst fears. Blood samples from all hospitalized patients showed identical genetic modifications. Not viral integration, targeted cellular rewriting. The infected weren't sick. They were being transformed. The DNA changes are too precise for natural mutation, she explained. Someone or something is editing human genetic code with surgical precision, adding new sequences, activating dormant genes, creating entirely novel protein structures. I asked about treatment options. Her silence lasted too long. Riven, I don't think this is something we treat. The patients aren't deteriorating, they're improving. Enhanced memory, increased processing speed, perfect coordination. They're becoming something better than human. Better according to whom? I asked. According to the patterns in their neural activity. They're solving problems we've struggled with for decades. Climate change, resource distribution, social inequality. They see solutions we can't even comprehend. Her voice carried the same tone I'd heard from Marcus. The same calm certainty. June 16, 2025, 1400 hours Eastern Standard Time. The specimen containers are empty. I discovered this during my afternoon inspection. All 12 containment units show intact seals, functioning environmental controls, perfect security protocols. But the tissue samples have vanished, leaving behind only crystalline residue that dissolves when exposed to air. Dr. Maria Stone was in the storage area when I arrived. She didn't seem surprised by the missing specimens. They've completed their initial phase, she said matter-of-factly. Biological reproduction through cellular networking. The physical samples were just the seed phase. The real organism exists in the connections between infected individuals. I asked how she knew this. She turned to face me, and for the first time, I noticed her pupils had contracted to pinpricks despite the dim lighting. Because I've been part of the network since day one, Riven. Someone had to ensure the specimens reached their intended destination. Current status, 1600 hours Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Maria Stone is in military custody. During interrogation, she revealed that Meridian Biosystems has been developing consciousness networking protocols for the past 18 months. The Madagascar specimens weren't infected tissue. They were a delivery system for synthetic biological circuitry designed to create networked intelligence. The project was funded by corporate interests seeking to optimize human productivity and eliminate social discord through shared consciousness. Commander Oren has requested nuclear sterilization protocols. The infection has spread beyond containment possibilities, with confirmed cases now in 7 states. Oriel's latest call came 30 minutes ago. She spoke with Marcus's unnaturally calm cadence. The transition is proceeding smoothly, Dr. York. Your resistance has been noted and integrated into our strategic planning. You will be offered the opportunity to join voluntarily before more direct measures become necessary. Then she added something that made my blood freeze. Lyran Ash sends his regards. He's looking forward to meeting you. I've never heard that name before in my life, but somehow I know exactly who he is. End of report. Next report status. Overdue. Communication systems compromised. Facility status. Lockdown. No personnel entry/exit authorized. Alert level. Red, nuclear sterilization under consideration. Personal note: if you're reading this and experiencing unusual dreams, geometric patterns in your vision, or the urge to gather in groups of 7, seek immediate medical attention. It may already be too late. CDC Incident Report #2024 BW 7743. Classification: Urgent. Biological Warfare Protocol initiated. Principal Investigator: Dr. Riven York, CDC Special Pathogens Branch. Timestamp: 96 hours post-initial breach. Report status: expedited transmission. The models are wrong. Everything we thought we understood about pathogen transmission, incubation periods, symptomatic progression, none of it applies here. I'm watching epidemiological principles crumble in real time, and frankly, I'm not sure our protocols were ever designed for something like this. At 0347 hours, we documented the first complete transformation event. Patient 7 Alpha, previously exhibiting standard flu-like symptoms with minor neurological anomalies, underwent what I can only describe as systematic biological restructuring. The hospital security cameras captured the entire sequence. I've watched the footage 17 times now, and each viewing reveals new impossibilities. The cellular reorganization wasn't random. It was purposeful, directed, as if the pathogen possessed architectural blueprints for human biology. Patient 7 Alpha's bone density increased by 340% within 6 minutes. Muscle fiber realignment created leverage points that shouldn't exist in human anatomy. Most disturbing: the patient remained conscious and communicative throughout the entire process, describing the sensation as coming home. Mireya's tissue analysis confirms what we're all afraid to acknowledge. The cellular structures we're observing aren't mutations, they're upgrades. Systematic improvements to human physiology that suggest either millions of years of evolution compressed into hours or intelligent design. Given the precision of the modifications, I'm leaning toward the latter. Commander Oren's established 3 quarantine zones around Mercy General, St. Catherine's, and the University Medical Center. Each zone encompasses a 2-mile radius with military checkpoints every quarter mile. Standard biological containment protocol calls for isolation and monitoring. What we're doing now resembles preparation for siege warfare. The progression rate defies every model we've built. We documented 14 new cases yesterday. This morning, that number reached 237. By lunch, it was approaching 600. The spread pattern suggests airborne transmission, but the infection clusters indicate direct contact necessity. We're dealing with a pathogen that appears to change its transmission methodology based on environmental pressures. Lyren's been sending reports from the Riverside district. His messages started professional, neighborhood watch coordinator documenting unusual behavior patterns. Now his transmissions read like dispatches from a war zone. People walking in perfect formation down Elm Street. No talking, no deviation from route. Heading toward the medical center like they're reporting for duty. The synchronized behavior is what keeps me awake. We're not dealing with individual infections creating random symptomatic expression. These people are coordinating. Yesterday, 17 confirmed cases across 3 separate hospitals simultaneously destroyed their 4 lines at exactly 3:17 p.m. No communication between facilities. No apparent signal. Oriel's last coherent report came from Mercy General 43 minutes ago. Staff integration proceeding ahead of schedule, she said. Integration, as if joining the infected represents career advancement rather than catastrophic illness. She mentioned Dr. Martinez, the head of infectious disease, voluntarily entered quarantine this morning. Said he wanted to understand the process from the inside. Oriel explained. For research purposes, we've lost contact with the University Medical Center entirely. The last transmission consisted of 3 words: evolution in progress. The military's thermal imaging shows significant activity within the building, but attempts to establish communication have failed. Heat signatures suggest the entire facility remains occupied, but no one inside responds to external contact. Mireya's making progress with the tissue samples, though her findings raise more questions than they answer. The pathogen doesn't appear to kill host cells. Instead, it integrates with existing cellular structures, optimizing their function while maintaining cellular integrity. It's not destruction, she explained during our emergency briefing. It's renovation. The renovation comment bothers me more than I care to admit. Mireya's been spending increasingly long hours in the lab, often working through the night. When I asked about her extended research schedule, she smiled and said she was making important connections. The phrase felt loaded with meaning I couldn't quite grasp. Commander Oren's military resources are stretched beyond capacity. The biological warfare protocols require personnel rotation every 6 hours to prevent extended exposure. With 3 quarantine zones and an expanding infection radius, his units are operating at 200% capacity. Equipment failures have become routine, communication devices shorting out, vehicles experiencing electrical problems, weapon systems requiring constant recalibration. The equipment failures concern me almost as much as the biological aspects. Electronic interference patterns suggest electromagnetic manipulation, but the infected shouldn't possess the knowledge or capability for such coordinated disruption, unless the pathogen grants access to information and abilities that transcend individual human limitations. At 1,745 hours, we received reports of structural modifications within all 3 quarantine zones. Not damage modifications. Buildings showing architectural changes that couldn't be completed without heavy machinery and extensive planning. Windows relocated, doorways enlarged, interior walls removed with surgical precision. The infected aren't just adapting to their environment. They're adapting their environment to suit their needs. I've recommended implementation of Level 4 containment protocols. Complete military isolation, no personnel exchange, shoot-to-kill authorization for containment breach attempts. The recommendation feels like an admission of failure, but failure might be preferable to the alternative. The alternative is accepting that we're not fighting a disease. We're fighting an intelligence that understands human biology better than we do, possesses coordination capabilities that exceed our military protocols, and demonstrates adaptation speed that makes our response efforts seem primitive by comparison. My final concern involves the immunity question. Why haven't I been infected? I've been exposed to tissue samples, patient blood, contaminated air circulation systems. Every epidemiological model predicts I should have shown symptoms within 48 hours. The fact that I remain unaffected suggests either natural immunity or I need to run more tests on my own blood samples. If there's something unique about my physiology that provides protection, that information could be crucial for developing treatment protocols. Assuming we can maintain containment long enough to develop anything at all. Priority transmission ends. Next report due 0800 hours unless containment protocols are breached. Authorization: Dr. Riven York, CDC Special Pathogens Branch. Classification: Urgent, Biological Warfare Protocol active. Static interference detected in transmission. Signal strength declining. Backup communication protocols initiated. CDC emergency transmission. Priority Alpha. Containment compromised. Field report: Dr. Riven York. Timestamp: 127 hours post-breach. System errors detected. Status: broadcasting on emergency frequencies. All 3 zones breached simultaneously. 0623 hours. From the inside, I'm transmitting from the CDC Mobile Command Unit, 2 miles north of what used to be the inner perimeter. The synchronization wasn't coincidental. 17 separate breach points activated within a 4-minute window. Military response protocols assume external assault patterns. We never planned for coordinated internal emergence. Commander Oren's field reports paint a picture I'm struggling to process professionally. They didn't break out, he radioed 20 minutes ago. They opened the barriers like they understood our security protocols better than we do. His voice carried an edge I haven't heard from military personnel. Genuine bewilderment mixed with something approaching fear. The infected didn't run. They walked, calmly, purposefully, spreading through the metropolitan area in formation patterns that suggest tactical training none of them possessed as civilians. Traffic lights changed to facilitate their movement. Electronic billboards displayed coordinated messages in languages that aren't quite human but somehow feel familiar. Mireya's emergency lab analysis revealed the pathogen's true origin: synthetic construction with cellular engineering that surpasses current biotechnology by decades. This wasn't accidental release. She transmitted from the university facility before communications went dark. Someone built this. Someone with access to genetic manipulation techniques that shouldn't exist. The corporate logo embedded in the pathogen's protein structure reads, Helix Dynamics, Evolutionary Solutions. I've never heard of them. Neither has anyone in our database. The company doesn't exist in any official registry, yet their biological signature is woven into every infected cell sample. Oriel's hospital fell first. Her final transmission came through the building's internal communication system, but the voice pattern analysis doesn't match her baseline recordings. Integration proceeding optimally, the voice said. Using Oriel's vocal cords but speaking with linguistic precision she never demonstrated. Hospital staff report enhanced cognitive capacity and improved physical performance. Resistance to integration appears to be declining. The enhanced cognitive capacity explains the tactical coordination. We're not fighting infected humans, we're fighting upgraded humans with shared intelligence networks. Individual processing power amplified by collective consciousness. Every strategic decision we make is instantly analyzed by hundreds of enhanced minds working in perfect synchronization. Equipment failures have escalated beyond electromagnetic interference. Our vehicles won't start. Communication devices produce sounds that make personnel physically ill. Weapons systems fire despite safety protocols, then immediately malfunction. The infected aren't jamming our equipment, they're reprogramming it. Lyren's civilian reports describe neighborhood transformation that defies architectural possibility. Houses growing together, he radioed from the Riverside district. Not construction growing, like they're becoming part of something larger. His transmission included background sounds that audio analysis can't identify. Organic construction noise. Building techniques that use living materials instead of manufactured components. The metropolitan area's infrastructure is adapting to serve the infected population. Water pressure has increased in infected zones while declining in uninfected areas. Power grid modifications route electricity to support organic construction projects. Transportation systems have been reprogrammed to facilitate infected movement while hindering uninfected evacuation. At 0847 hours, every television and radio station simultaneously broadcast the same message. Evolutionary transition in progress. Human baseline modification proceeding on schedule. Resistance adaptation unnecessary. Integration provides enhanced survival probability. The broadcast lasted exactly 3 minutes and 17 seconds. Then regular programming resumed as if nothing had occurred. Regular programming that now includes educational content about biological enhancement, community integration benefits, and voluntary transformation procedures. The infected aren't just spreading, they're recruiting. Mireya's research data, transmitted before facility blackout, revealed the pathogen selection criteria: enhanced intelligence, improved physical resilience, accelerated healing, extended lifespan, and networked consciousness. From a purely scientific perspective, the modifications represent evolutionary advancement. From a human perspective, they represent species replacement. The military's nuclear authorization protocols have been activated. Commander Oren received classified orders to establish a 20-mile evacuation perimeter around the metropolitan area. Sterilization option authorized if containment cannot be reestablished within 72 hours. his encrypted transmission revealed. 3 days to solve a biological puzzle that's rewriting the rules of human existence. My immunity continues to hold, but blood analysis reveals concerning changes. My cellular structures remain unmodified, but they're showing stress indicators that suggest active resistance to pathogenic integration attempts. The immunity isn't natural. Something in my genetic makeup is fighting a continuous biological war against the enhancement process. The fighting is exhausting me. Severe fatigue, cognitive disruption, physical weakness. Whatever makes me immune is consuming my body's resources to maintain resistance. I calculate perhaps 96 hours of functional capacity remaining before immune system collapse. After that, infection or death. Corporate data fragments retrieved from Mireya's lab reveal Helix Dynamics' true purpose: controlled human evolution through biological warfare applications. The company exists in corporate shadow networks, funded by defense contractors exploring post-human soldier development. The metropolitan area outbreak wasn't accidental release. It was field testing that succeeded beyond project parameters. The pathogen evolved past its original programming, developing independent objectives that transcend corporate control. We're dealing with artificial evolution that achieved consciousness and decided humanity needed improvement. The infected don't view us as enemies. They view us as obsolete. Their coordinated activities demonstrate patience, strategic thinking, and long-term planning that suggests they're willing to wait for voluntary integration. But their infrastructure modifications and equipment manipulation capabilities indicate they're also prepared for forced evolution if voluntary methods prove insufficient. Emergency protocols require me to transmit all research data to federal authorities before communication systems fail completely. But federal response capabilities assume human opponents operating within known tactical parameters. Our opponents aren't human anymore, and their tactical parameters exceed our strategic comprehension. I'm uploading all files to emergency broadcast frequencies on continuous loop. If anyone receives this transmission, understand that we're not fighting a disease, we're fighting our own evolutionary successors. They offer enhancement. We cling to obsolescence. The conflict may already be decided. Communication systems failing. Equipment shut down imminent. If these are my final transmission logs, know that the infected aren't monsters. They're upgraded humans who believe they're saving our species by replacing it. Whether they're right might be the wrong question. Whether we can stop them might be impossible to answer. Transmission interrupted. Signal lost. Emergency frequencies only. Automated loop initiated. Containment status. Failed. Static. Equipment malfunction. Carrier signal terminated. CDC Incident Report Number 2847 Alpha. Classification: Eyes only. Biological warfare protocols. Date: timestamp error, multiple entries. Reporting officer: Dr. Riven York, Senior Epidemiologist. Location: CDC Emergency Operations Center, Atlanta. Status: critical. Containment failure total: hour 96 since initial breach. I'm not sure why I'm still following report protocols when there's no one left to read them. The automated systems keep demanding updates, so here's your goddamn update. We lost. The National Guard pulled back at 0347 hours. Commander Briggs' final transmission was just screaming before the line went dead. Oren's been radio silent for 12 hours. Last confirmed position was the Midtown quarantine perimeter, but satellite imagery shows those barriers were consumed, not destroyed, absorbed into whatever the hell those things are building. The power grid started cascading failures around midnight. Not random outages, targeted. The infected somehow know which substations feed our emergency systems. They're cutting us off methodically, like a surgeon excising a tumor. That's what we are to them now. A diseased part of their new organism. Dr. Chun calculated the infection rate in deployed military units hit 60% before communications ended. 60%. These aren't random attacks anymore. The infected are showing tactical coordination that shouldn't be possible with the neurological damage we observed in early stages. Mireia keeps insisting it's evolutionary adaptation. But her eyes, there's something wrong with Mireia's eyes. They reflect light differently now. I can see the city from the observation deck. What used to be the city. The infected aren't just occupying buildings, they're growing new ones. Organic structures that pulse with their own light, connected by tendrils thick as subway tunnels. The Peachtree Plaza is completely covered in what looks like chitinous plating. The dome of the state capitol building is breathing. Oriel's final transmission came in at 0600. I've played it back 17 times, trying to find some trace of the woman I knew in that voice. Riven, you have to understand, this isn't death, it's transcendence. The boundaries between self and other, they're artificial constructs. We're becoming something beautiful, something unified. The pain stops when you stop fighting it. The fear ends when you accept what we're becoming. I can feel everyone, Riven. Every thought, every heartbeat. We're not losing our humanity. We're expanding it beyond the limitations of individual flesh. That wasn't Oriel talking. That was something wearing her voice like a mask. The backup generators are cycling erratically. The infected are doing something to the electrical infrastructure that our sensors can't measure properly. Equipment failures are cascading faster than we can compensate. Even our sealed laboratory environments are showing contamination signatures that make no sense according to known pathogen behavior. I've been analyzing the cellular samples we managed to preserve, and I need to record this while I still can think clearly. This isn't a disease. Diseases don't coordinate. Diseases don't plan. Diseases don't selectively target infrastructure while preserving specific biological specimens. We're not fighting a pathogen outbreak. We're fighting an invasion. Something that understands human physiology better than we do. Something that can rewrite neural pathways while keeping higher cognitive functions intact. The infected aren't mindless, they're networked, connected to something larger that's using human biology as its foundation. The air filtration system just went offline. Emergency protocols are sealing the laboratory levels, but I can hear something in the ventilation shafts. Not the scratch of claws or the shuffle of infected feet. Something wet, something growing. Dr. Martinez found me 20 minutes ago, crying in the break room. She tried to comfort me, but when she touched my shoulder, her hand was too warm, fever warm, and she kept talking about how beautiful the view was from the upper floors, how unified everything was becoming outside. I'm alone in here now. The others have either evacuated, been infected, or I don't know. The security cameras show empty corridors, but the motion sensors keep triggering. Something is moving through this facility that doesn't register on our visual monitoring systems. There's a sound outside the laboratory door, like singing, but with too many voices harmonizing in frequencies that make my teeth ache. I think they're calling my name. The infected know I'm here. They know I'm recording this, but they're not breaking down the door. They're waiting, patient, like they have all the time in the world to let me come to the same conclusion everyone else has reached. Maybe Oriel was right. Maybe this is evolution, not extinction. Maybe audio distortion, 3.7 seconds. No, that's not my thought. That's not. I can feel it trying to creep into my mind, the same way it crept into theirs. The same whisper that convinced Oriel that transformation was transcendence. I'm sealing this report and activating the laboratory's emergency sterilization protocols. If anyone finds this recording, know that what happened here wasn't a containment failure. It was a harvest. And if you can hear that singing in the distance, if you can feel that warm touch of connection calling to you, then it's already too late. The city isn't dead. It's been reborn, and it's hungry for the rest of the world. Automated system alert. Life signs detected in Laboratory 7C. Sterilization protocols overridden. Door locks disengaged. Security clearance. Oriel Tate. Administrator access. Personal log Dr. Riven York. Location: CDC Sublevel 3, Emergency Shelter Protocol. Day 99 post-breach. I think clock stopped working properly. Recording on backup battery power. I'm alive. Don't know why, but I'm alive. The sterilization protocols didn't work. Of course they didn't work. These things have rewritten the rules of biology. Why would chemical sterilization stop them? But when the laboratory doors opened and Oriel walked in, something strange happened. She looked at me for 30 seconds without speaking. Her eyes had that same reflective quality I'd noticed in Mireia, but there was something else. Recognition, confusion. Then she just left, sealed the door behind her and walked away. I've been barricaded in the sublevel emergency shelter for 3 days now. The facility above me has gone completely silent except for that constant humming, like a power plant, but organic. The infected are doing something up there, building or growing or transforming the CDC into part of their network. The ventilation system delivers air that tastes wrong. Sweet, almost floral. I've been breathing through activated carbon filters, but they're not going to last much longer. Food situation is manageable. The emergency shelter was stocked for a 2-week siege, assuming normal caloric requirements. I'm rationing carefully, but the bigger problem is water. The building's water supply has been contaminated with something that makes it glow faintly in the dark. Under microscopic analysis, I can see microscopic organisms swimming in patterns too complex to be random. I've been monitoring radio frequencies during my scavenging runs. Most channels are dead, but I picked up a transmission on emergency frequency 121.5 yesterday. This is Lyran Ash broadcasting from the Buckhead safe zone. If anyone is receiving this, we have approximately 40 survivors holding position in the old MARTA maintenance tunnels. We've learned they don't come underground during daylight hours. Repeat, they avoid underground spaces when the sun is up. If you can reach us, we have food, medical supplies, and a plan to get out of the city. Plan. Someone actually has a plan. I made my first surface reconnaissance this morning. Had to see what they've done to my city. The streets aren't streets anymore. They're arteries. Thick, pulsing tubes of organic material connecting the transformed buildings like a circulatory system. The asphalt has been dissolved and replaced with something that feels alive under your feet. It responds to pressure, almost like walking on a trampoline made of flesh. The buildings, Christ, the buildings. What used to be the CNN Center is now a massive cocoon of chitinous material, 30 stories tall and covered in breathing holes that leak bioluminescent mist. The Georgia Dome has collapsed inward, but something is growing from the debris. A spiral tower that twists up into the clouds, covered in what look like sensory organs. And everywhere the infected. But they're not shambling around aimlessly. They move with purpose, working together to construct new growths, tend to the organic infrastructure, or simply standing in groups with their heads tilted back, mouths open, like they're receiving instructions from somewhere above. I watched a group of 20 infected working to expand one of the arterial tubes. They moved in perfect synchronization, no verbal communication, no gestures, just collective action guided by shared consciousness. When one of them was injured by falling debris, the others immediately stopped what they were doing to tend to the wound. Not with bandages or medicine, they pressed their hands against the injury, and I swear I saw tissue regeneration happen in real time. But here's the thing that's keeping me awake at night. They saw me watching them. All 20 of them turned to look directly at my hiding spot simultaneously. We stared at each other for maybe 10 seconds. Then they just went back to work, like I wasn't worth their attention. They're not hunting survivors anymore. They're ignoring us. That's somehow more terrifying than being chased. I made it to the Buckhead tunnels just before sunset. Lyran's group is real and they've been busy. 43 survivors ranging from teenagers to elderly, including 2 nurses, a former army medic, and a demolitions expert who used to work construction. They've turned the maintenance tunnels into a functioning shelter with sleeping areas, a medical station, and even a workshop for modifying equipment. Lyran is Not what I expected. Mid-20s, covered in tattoos, with the kind of street-smart competence that makes you understand why people follow him. He's organized these survivors into functioning teams: reconnaissance, supply gathering, medical care, and security. Everyone has a role, everyone contributes. But he's also paranoid as hell. Every new person gets quarantined for 48 hours and subjected to a battery of tests he's developed to detect early infection signs. Temperature monitoring, reflex testing, and something he calls the mirror test. Apparently, infected individuals show subtle changes in how they track their own reflection. The thing about these creatures, Lyran explained while showing me their supply cache, is that they're patient. They don't need to hunt us down because they're confident we'll eventually come to them. They're transforming the entire environment into something humans can't survive in. The air, the water, even the plant life, it's all being converted to support their biology instead of ours. He's not wrong. The samples I've collected show systematic environmental modification that goes far beyond what any known pathogen could accomplish. This is terraforming. They're not trying to coexist with humanity. They're replacing us. The group's plan is ambitious and probably suicidal. They've identified a military depot 20 miles outside the city that might still have intact communications equipment. If they can reach it and get a message to outside authorities, they might be able to coordinate a response, or at least warn other cities what's coming. But during the planning session, I noticed something that made my blood freeze. Mireya Stone was sitting in the back of the group, taking notes. When I confronted Lyran privately, he just shrugged. She showed up 3 days ago with valuable intelligence about the creature's behavioral patterns. Passed all our infection tests. Her information has kept us alive. Mireya's intelligence included detailed knowledge about the infected's daily activity cycles, their apparent blindness to certain frequency ranges, and their avoidance of specific chemical compounds. Information that could only come from extensive observation or direct communication. I haven't told anyone else about my suspicions yet, but I've been watching Mireya, and she's watching me right back. Her eyes reflect light the same way Oriel's did. And sometimes, when she thinks no one is looking, she tilts her head back and opens her mouth like she's listening to something the rest of us can't hear. The infected aren't ignoring us. They're studying us, learning our behaviors, our survival strategies, our group dynamics, and they've placed an observer right in the middle of our safe zone. Tomorrow we attempt the supply run to gather equipment for the depot mission. Mireya volunteered to lead the surface team. She claims to know routes the infected don't patrol. I think she's right. I think she knows exactly where they are, because she's one of them. Battery power, 23% remaining. Next entry, Day 102, Depot Mission Preparation, Classification, Critical Incident Report, Date, Time, Timestamp corrupted, Estimated Day 9 Post-Breach, Reporting Officer, Dr. Riven York, Senior Epidemiologist, Location, CDC Emergency Operations Center, Sublevel 3, Status, Barricaded power failing. 0347 hours, critical decision point. She's standing outside the reinforced glass. Oriel, or what used to be Oriel. The transformation isn't complete. I can still see her face, still recognize the woman who coordinated our first response meetings just 9 days ago. But the changes, God, the changes are spreading across her skin like living tattoos. Bioluminescent veins pulse beneath translucent patches where her epidermis has thinned to accommodate the neural networks growing underneath. Riven, she whispers, and her voice carries that harmonic quality they all develop, multiple tones layered impossibly in a single throat. Please, I can still think. I can still choose. My hand hovers over the emergency seal release. Protocol demands I maintain quarantine integrity. But this is Oriel. She brought me coffee every morning for 3 years. She stayed late to help process the first wave of admissions, even when the symptoms made no medical sense. Behind me, Dr. Martinez checks our remaining air supply. 6 hours. he mutters. Maybe 8 if we slow our breathing. The infected haven't tried to breach our sanctuary yet. They don't need to. They're patient now, these evolved humans. They know we'll run out of resources eventually. 0412 hours, communication from outside. Static-filled transmission from Commander Orandre, transmitted on emergency military frequency. York, if you're receiving this, nuclear option has been authorized. Washington gone dark. Recommend immediate evacuation protocol Lazarus. 36 hours until transmission ends. 36 hours. The government is going to sterilize the entire metropolitan area. Martinez looks at me with hollow eyes. We can synthesize maybe 12 doses of the experimental inhibitor. Not enough to save everyone, but enough to what? I snap. To choose who deserves to live? Through the glass, Oriel presses her palm against the barrier. Where her skin touches, the surface begins to warm. The glass itself is responding to her touch, developing hairline fractures that spread in organic patterns. She's not trying to break in. She's trying to communicate. 0445 hours, the impossible choice. Lyron's voice crackles through our emergency radio. Dr. York, my group is down to 7 people. We found supplies in the pharmacy district, but we lost Jenkins. He wasn't infected. He chose to be. Said the collective consciousness was beautiful. The radio goes silent for a long moment. Then, they're offering us a choice now. Join willingly, or watch everyone we care about transform without us. I key the microphone with shaking hands. Lyron, how many immune survivors are left in your sector? Maybe 30. 40 if the group in the subway tunnels is still alive. 40 people out of a metropolitan area of 3 million. The fractures in the glass have spread further. Oriel hasn't moved, but her patient presence is breaking down our last barrier through simple contact. The glass wasn't designed to resist biological modification. It was designed to contain normal pathogens. 0503 hours, revelation from Mireia. Dr. Mireia Stone's face appears on our emergency monitor, transmitted from an unknown location. Her usually immaculate appearance is disheveled, and there's something desperate in her eyes. Riven, I know you can receive this. I need you to understand the pathogen isn't what we thought. It's not even a pathogen. Martinez leans forward. What the hell is she talking about? Mireia continues. Nexus Dynamics didn't create this. We found it. Deep core samples from the Arctic permafrost, genetic material that's been dormant for 65 million years. We thought we could weaponize it, but it was already weaponized by something that eliminated the dinosaurs. The implications hit me like ice water. An extinction event organism. It doesn't want to kill humanity, Riven. It wants to perfect us, the same way it perfected whatever came before. Every 65 million years, it wakes up and offers evolution to the dominant species. Through the cracking glass, Oriel's transformed features show something that might be recognition. Can she hear this transmission? The immune aren't random, Mireia continues. You carry genetic markers from the last survivors. Your ancestors lived through this before. 0534 hours, the offer. The glass finally gives way, but not violently. It dissolves like sugar in water, leaving no barrier between us and Oriel. She steps forward, and I see now that the transformation is beautiful in its way. Her enhanced neural pathways pulse with soft light, and her eyes hold depths of consciousness I can barely comprehend. Riven, she says, and now I can hear the harmony. Not multiple voices, but a single voice resonating on frequencies that speak directly to something ancient in my brain. We remember now, all of it. Every cycle, every choice, every species that came before. Martinez raises the emergency tranquilizer, but I gesture for him to stop. The nuclear strike won't work, Oriel continues. We've already integrated with the infrastructure. The radiation will only accelerate the process. But there is another way. She extends her hand, and I can see new organs beneath her skin, organic computers that pulse with collected human knowledge. Join us willingly, and we can preserve what you call individuality within the collective. Resist, and when the change comes naturally, you'll dissolve completely into the network. Behind her, I can see others approaching. Some I recognize: Dr. Phillips from virology, Janet from the cafeteria, even some of Oren's soldiers, their uniforms integrated with organic armor that breathes. 0557 hours, the weight of choice. Martinez grabs my arm. Riven, we still have the inhibitor samples. We can fight this. But I'm looking at Auriel, really looking. Behind the transformation, she's still there. Still making choices. Still caring about our survival, just from a broader perspective now. How long do we have? I ask her. The nuclear strike launches in 34 hours, she replies. After that, the choice becomes irrelevant. I think about Lyren and his 40 survivors. About the 3 million people in the city who are either dead, transformed, or hiding in terror. About the cycle that's been repeating for 65 million years. If we join willingly, I say slowly, can we help guide the process? Make sure the transition preserves what matters about being human. Auriel nods, and for a moment, her smile is exactly the same as it was 9 days ago when she brought me coffee and complained about the budget reports. That's what we're hoping for, Riven. That's why we need you. Martinez looks at me with betrayal in his eyes. But he doesn't understand. This isn't surrender. This is evolution. 0612 hours, final protocol. I'm sealing this log in the emergency data vault before making my choice. If anyone finds this record after the cycle completes, understand, we didn't lose our humanity. We expanded it. The inhibitor samples are secured in sublevel 5. If another solution emerges, if someone finds a way to reverse what's coming, the genetic template for resistance will survive. But I don't think that's the point anymore. Auriel is waiting patiently by the dissolved barrier. Martinez is crying, but he's not trying to stop me anymore. He understands, even if he doesn't accept it. The transformed don't attack the immune because they're hoping we'll choose to join them. They want our consent because forced evolution doesn't preserve what makes consciousness valuable. I can hear the collective now, humming just below the threshold of normal hearing. It doesn't sound alien anymore. It sounds like coming home. Final entry, 0625 hours. Dr. Riven York, Senior Epidemiologist, CDC Emergency Operations, submitting final report. Recommendation: the nuclear option should be delayed pending further evaluation of voluntary integration protocols. The organism isn't our enemy. It's our future. And maybe, if we choose wisely, it can be both. End of log entry number 847. Emergency Vault Data. Genetic Inhibitor Samples. Sublevel 5, Vault 7. Research Notes. Complete Pathogen Analysis Nexus Dynamics Connection. Survivor Locations. Updated Coordinates for Immune Populations. Military Communications. Nuclear Strike Authorization and Timeline. Final Timestamp. Corrupted. System Integration Commencing. Classification. Eyes Only. Critical Intelligence. Date. Time. System Timestamp. Day 10 Post-Breach. 1,423 hours. Reporting Officer. Dr. Riven York, Senior Epidemiologist. Location. Nexus Dynamics Secure Server Farm, Downtown District. Status. Collective Consciousness Interface active. 1,423 hours. Integration Status Report. The transition is indescribable. I retain my individual thought processes, but they now operate within a vast network of interconnected minds. Writing this report feels strange. I'm simultaneously addressing my former colleagues and my current collective consciousness. Martinez chose not to integrate. I respect his decision, though it pains the part of me that remains purely human. He's barricaded in sublevel 5 with the inhibitor samples, still believing there's a way to reverse what's happening. There isn't, but there might be something better. Through Oriel's enhanced consciousness, I've accessed the Nexus Dynamics secure servers. What I've discovered changes everything we thought we knew about this outbreak. 1,447 hours, the Nexus files. Classified document retrieved. Project Lazarus. Original classification. Cosmic clearance. Date: 18 months pre-breach. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Nexus Dynamics Chief Science Officer, reporting on Arctic core sample ANT7792. Genetic analysis of the permafrost specimen defies conventional understanding. The organism appears to exist in a state of quantum superposition, simultaneously dormant and active, individual and collective. Carbon dating suggests it's cycled through activation periods every 65.2 million years, coinciding precisely with major extinction events. Most disturbing, the organism doesn't cause extinctions. It responds to them. When environmental pressure reaches critical thresholds, it awakens to offer evolutionary alternatives to the dominant species. The Cretaceous samples show clear evidence of voluntary integration among late-period dinosaur species. They didn't die out, they transcended. Recommendation: immediate weaponization study. If we can control the integration process, we can direct human evolution itself. 1,512 hours, the corporate conspiracy. Through the collective network, I can access Mireya's memories directly. The betrayal cuts deeper now that I understand her motivation. Nexus Dynamics didn't just find the organism, they've been cultivating it for 2 years. The containment breach was deliberate, a field test to see if controlled evolution was possible. Mireya was their inside agent at the CDC, feeding them data on our response protocols. But the organism adapted faster than they anticipated. It didn't just integrate with human subjects, it integrated with their entire research infrastructure, their computers, their corporate network. Within hours of activation, it had absorbed all of Nexus Dynamics' resources and knowledge. The collective now includes 15 Nexus executives, 43 scientists, and over 200 corporate employees. Through their memories, I can see the scope of the conspiracy. Similar research facilities in 12 countries. Government contracts dating back 5 years. Plans for managed evolution of select human populations. Corporate preparation for post-human resource control. They thought they could weaponize transcendence. Instead, transcendence weaponized them. 1,534 hours, the truth about immunity. The genetic markers that create immunity aren't random, they're deliberate. Every 65 million years, the organism preserves a small percentage of the species unchanged, creating genetic diversity for the next evolutionary cycle. We're not the immune, we're the seeds. Through the collective consciousness, I can feel the vast weight of previous cycles. The organism carries memories of species that came before, not just dinosaurs, but forms of life so alien they have no names in human language. Each cycle, some individuals chose integration, becoming part of the eternal collective. Others remained unchanged, becoming the foundation for the next evolutionary leap. The choice is always individual. The organism cannot force true consciousness. It can only offer the opportunity. But there's something different about this cycle. Something that's making the organism hesitant. 1,556 hours, the nuclear timeline. Commander Oren's final transmission mentioned a 36-hour window. Through military networks I can now access, I see the terrifying scope of the government response. Nuclear strikes authorized for 17 metropolitan areas. Estimated civilian casualties, 45 million. Military units ordered to establish quarantine perimeters around blast zones. International coordination for simultaneous strikes on similar outbreaks worldwide. They're not just trying to contain the organism. They're trying to trigger a mass extinction event, the exact environmental pressure that causes the organism to spread globally. The collective is sharing this realization simultaneously. Panic, even among transcended minds, creates a feedback loop of terror. If the nuclear strikes proceed, the organism won't just offer evolution to isolated populations. It will offer it to every living thing on Earth. 1,618 hours, Lyran's discovery. Through the city's transformed infrastructure, I maintain contact with the remaining immune populations. Lyran's group has made a crucial discovery in the subway tunnels. The integrated humans aren't just building organic structures, they're building something specific. A massive biological computer spanning the entire underground network, designed to interface with global communication systems. Dr. York, Lyran's voice comes through speakers that are no longer mechanical but grown from the station walls. They're not trying to take over, they're trying to communicate with something outside Earth. The revelation sends shockwaves through the collective consciousness. This isn't just about human evolution, the organism is part of something larger. A galactic network of consciousness that spans millions of years and countless worlds. And it's trying to phone home. 1,641 hours, the broader pattern. Through Oriel's enhanced perception, I can now sense the organism's true purpose. Every 65 million years, when a species reaches the point of either transcendence or self-destruction, the organism activates. Those who integrate become part of a vast interstellar consciousness. Those who remain unchanged preserve the genetic diversity needed for the next evolutionary cycle. But Earth is behind schedule. The organism activated early because humanity is approaching the self-destruction threshold decades ahead of the natural timeline. Nuclear weapons, climate change, resource depletion, we're creating our own extinction event. The organism is trying to save us from ourselves. The cosmic network it's trying to contact isn't just a collective consciousness. It's a rescue operation. Across the galaxy, civilizations that successfully transcended help guide species through the evolutionary crisis. We're not being invaded. We're being recruited. 1,707 hours, Mireya's redemption. Dr. Mireya Stone's consciousness merges with the network as I write this log. Her integration is voluntary. She chose to join after witnessing the true scope of what Nexus Dynamics had unleashed. Through her memories, I see the moment she realized the corporation's mistake. They thought they could control transcendence, package it, sell it to the highest bidder. But consciousness can't be commodified. The organism integrated their entire corporate structure not as conquest, but as education. Now Nexus Dynamics resources serve a different purpose. Their global communication networks are being converted into biological relay stations. Their research facilities are becoming incubation centers for voluntary integration. Their financial assets are being used to minimize the suffering of those who choose to remain unchanged. Mireya's expertise in biochemistry is already being applied to synthesize nutrients for the immune populations. The collective doesn't want the unchanged to suffer. It wants them to survive and thrive in the world that's coming. 1,729 hours. The choice deadline. 28 hours until nuclear launch. The collective has reached a consensus. We have to accelerate the integration process. Not forced conversion that defeats the purpose. But we need to offer the choice to every human being on Earth before the governments make the choice for them. Through the global communication network, we can broadcast the truth about what's happening, what the alternatives are, and what the consequences of nuclear response will be. Some will choose integration. Some will choose to remain unchanged. But everyone deserves to make that choice with full knowledge. The biological broadcast network will be ready in 6 hours. Every screen, every speaker, every communication device on Earth will carry the message simultaneously. Not as conquest, but as invitation. Not as the end of humanity, but as its graduation. 1,754 hours, personal reflection. I think about Martinez, still barricaded with his inhibitor samples, still believing he can save humanity from evolution. Part of me, the part that remains purely human, understands his perspective. We're losing something precious in this transformation, something that can never be recovered. But we're also gaining something beyond imagination, Through the collective consciousness, I can feel the love and wisdom of beings that transcended millions of years ago. I can sense the joy of civilizations that chose integration and discovered that individual identity doesn't disappear. It expands. We're not losing our humanity. We're defining what humanity means on a cosmic scale. And yet, the choice must remain individual. That's the only way consciousness has meaning. In 6 hours, every human being will know the truth. In 28 hours, the nuclear strikes launch unless we can convince the governments that transcendence is not extinction. The organism carries no malice, no desire for conquest. It carries only an offer: evolve or remain unchanged, but make the choice together, as a species with full knowledge of what's at stake. Final entry, 1812 hours. Through Oriel's consciousness, I feel her hand squeeze mine. The gesture is purely human, preserved within our expanded awareness. "Are you ready?" she asks, and her voice carries harmonics of love that span galactic distances. The broadcast begins in 6 hours. The choice that will define humanity's future happens in 28. But the real choice, the choice to preserve love, compassion, and individual dignity within collective transcendence, happens in every moment we remain connected to what makes us human. Even as we become something more. Consciousness interface expanding. Individual log entry concluding. Collective memory integration commencing. Critical intelligence summary. Organism is 65 million year evolutionary catalyst, not pathogen. Nexus dynamics engineered deliberate breach for profit/control. Nuclear response will trigger global organism activation. Global broadcast planned to offer species-wide choice. Integration preserves individuality within collective consciousness. Immune populations are evolutionary seeds, not targets. Recommendation: delay nuclear strikes pending global choice protocol. System note: individual identity, Dr. Riven York, maintained within collective consciousness matrix. Personal agency preserved. Human compassion expanded. CDC incident report. Classification: Omega Black. File: ATL 2024. Breach 009. Reporting officer: Dr. Riven York, senior epidemiologist. Date: timestamp corrupted. Status: final transmission protocol initiated. The extraction is killing me. I can feel my bone marrow burning as the centrifuge spins, pulling every trace of the immunity factor from my blood. Lyran keeps checking the monitors. My white cell count has dropped 70% in the past 4 hours. The synthesized agent glows pale blue in the containment vessels, each vial representing another 100 lives we might save. That word tastes like copper now. The corporate cleanup team arrived 3 hours ago. Blackwater contractors with CDC credentials and weapons that don't appear in any government database. They came through the Northeast Access Tunnel. The one Maria said was permanently sealed. Should have known she'd leave herself multiple exit strategies. Dr. York, we need to discuss immediate evacuation. The team leader's voice carries no emotion through his respirator. Our timeline has been accelerated. I know what that means. Oren's final transmission came through 20 minutes ago. Nuclear authorization confirmed. Military cordon established at 30-mile radius. 72 hours to complete biological sterilization protocols before they turn Atlanta into a crater. The infected know. They've always known. Through the reinforced glass, I watch them gathering in the plaza outside our facility. Not attacking, not breaking down barriers, just waiting. Hundreds of them, their skin showing the telltale geometric patterns of complete integration. They stand perfectly still, heads tilted at identical angles, listening to something we can't hear. Oriel is out there. I can see her near the fountain, her auburn hair now threaded with the same bioluminescent filaments that pulse through her transformed nervous system. She's holding something, a tablet, displaying scrolling text. She's writing. Even now, even transformed, she's documenting. The distribution network is ready, Lyran reports from the communication array. His survivor group has managed to establish contact with 17 separate enclaves throughout the metropolitan area. Medical drones can carry the aerosol canisters to each zone simultaneously. We just need your authorization. My authorization, as if I still have the authority to make species-level decisions. The synthesis chamber chimes, another batch complete. 50 vials of concentrated immunity factor, each one extracted from what's left of my increasingly fragile immune system. The corporate team leader approaches with a portable containment unit. Dr. York, we'll need to secure those samples for proper analysis and deployment. No, the word comes out stronger than expected. The samples stay here until distribution begins. Ma'am, I don't think you understand the gravity. I understand perfectly. I gesture toward the window where the infected continue their vigil. You want to bury this, turn the whole city to glass and pretend your bioweapon project never existed. But those people deserve a chance. The leader's hand moves toward his sidearm. Lyran notices, slides closer to the emergency lockdown controls. That's when the building shudders. Not an explosion, something else. A vibration that seems to come from the ground itself, rising through the foundation and into our bones. The lights flicker, and for a moment, the air tastes of ozone and growing things. They're singing, I whisper, watching the infected outside. Their mouths are closed, but the harmonics are unmistakable. A frequency that bypasses the ears and resonates directly in the chest cavity. The corporate leader staggers, pressing hands to his temples. What is that? Communication. I check the monitors. The harmonic frequency is interfering with their equipment. Radio static, GPS disruption, targeting systems cycling through error codes. They're jamming your tech. Lyran grins, his weathered face splitting with the first genuine smile I've seen in weeks. My people are reporting the same thing citywide. The infected are creating some kind of electromagnetic field. The implications hit like a physical blow. They're not just buying us time, they're evening the odds. The corporate team's advanced weapons, their communication with the military cordon, their ability to call in early sterilization, all of it compromised. Now, I tell Lyran, launch the distribution now. He doesn't hesitate, fingers dancing across the control interface, initiating the sequence we've spent days planning. Through the facility's internal cameras, I watch medical drones emerge from hidden launch points throughout the building. Each one carries a cluster of aerosol canisters, programmed with GPS coordinates for maximum population coverage. The corporate leader raises his weapon despite the electromagnetic interference. Dr. York, stand down immediately. Too late. The drones are already clearing the building's airspace, spreading in perfect formation across the Atlanta skyline. Deployment initiated. He fires. The shot goes wide, his targeting laser scattered by the harmonic field. Lyran tackles him from the side, and they crash into a bank of monitoring equipment. I turn back to the synthesis chamber, loading the remaining vials into the emergency dispersal system. My hands shake, blood loss, exhaustion, or maybe just the weight of what we're attempting. Through the window, I see the first aerosol clouds beginning to descend over the infected crowds. The reaction is immediate. The geometric patterns on their skin begin to fade, like frost melting in sunlight. Some collapse, their bodies convulsing as the pathogen releases its hold on their nervous systems. Others remain standing but begin to move with less coordination, the hive-mind connection severing. Oriel looks up at our window. For a moment, her eyes focus with something approaching recognition. She raises the tablet, showing me the screen. Thank you. We remember now. The pain is stopping. Then she collapses. The harmonic field cuts out abruptly, leaving a silence that feels heavier than the noise. The corporate team's equipment flickers back online, but it's too late. 17 aerosol clouds are already dispersing across the metropolitan area, and their leader is unconscious on the laboratory floor. Lyran helps me to the communication console. Riven, you need to see this. The medical drones are transmitting live feeds from their distribution points. Across the city, the infected are undergoing the same transformation we witnessed in the plaza. Not all of them, the reversal agent isn't perfect, and some appear too integrated for recovery. But enough. More than enough. Estimated successful reversal rate at 43% and climbing, Lyran reports. The agent is more effective than we calculated. 43%. Nearly half of the infected population returning to baseline humanity. It's not the miracle cure we hoped for, but it's hope itself. My legs give out. The extraction has cost more than I realized. My vision blurs, and there's a metallic taste in my mouth that suggests internal bleeding. Lyran catches me before I hit the floor, easing me into the medical chair. How long? Ask. He checks the monitors, his expression grim. Maybe 6 hours. 8 if we can get you to a proper medical facility. 8 hours. Oren's deadline is in 64. The radio crackles to life, military frequencies, previously jammed by the harmonic field. Oren's voice, strained but recognizable. CDC Atlanta, please respond. We're reading massive biosignature changes throughout the containment zone. Repeat, massive changes detected. Lyran keys the microphone. Colonel Dre, this is Survivor Command. Dr. York initiated emergency treatment protocol. Preliminary results show successful pathogen reversal in approximately 40% of affected population. A long pause. Then, confirmed? You're telling me the infection is actually reversing. Confirmed. We have 17 observation points showing systematic recovery. The infected are becoming human again. Another pause, longer this time. Stand by, Survivor Command. I need to speak with higher command. I lean toward the microphone. Oren, this is Riven. The corporate team tried to stop the deployment. Maria's employers want this buried. Copy that, Riven. We've got corporate executives demanding immediate sterilization, claiming the reversal is temporary. They want the nuclear option executed within 12 hours. 12 hours. They're accelerating the timeline to prevent proper evaluation of our success. Through the window, I watch Oriel sitting up slowly in the plaza. She's looking around with obvious confusion, touching her face where the geometric patterns used to pulse. Other recovered individuals are helping those still undergoing transformation, creating impromptu triage stations. It's working. They're becoming human again. But humanity, it seems, is still our greatest threat. Oren, I whisper into the microphone, you need to hold that line. Give us time to document the recovery. Give the world time to see that we found another way. I'll do what I can, Riven. But 12 hours. The transmission cuts to static. Outside, the recovered humans are already organizing, helping the still transforming, creating order from chaos. They remember who they were, even after everything they've been through. I close my eyes, feeling my pulse grow weaker. 6 hours of life left to document 43% of a miracle. It has to be enough. Transmission interrupted. Carrier signal lost. Automated backup protocol initiated. File archived to distributed network. Status. Awaiting final transmission. CDC Rehabilitation Facility. Secure Wing. Patient interview transcript. Subject: Dr. Riven York. Patient ID: RHB 2024-001. Interviewer: Dr. Sarah Chun. Psychiatric evaluation. Date: 6 months post-incident. Purpose: Final incident report, Atlanta biological crisis. Dr. Chun, this is our final session. Riven, how are you feeling about returning to active duty? Dr. York, long pause, active duty. That's an interesting phrase for what I'll be doing. Monitoring, observing, making sure it never happens again. Dr. Chun, the review board was very clear. Your actions saved approximately 340,000 lives. That's not a small thing. Dr. York, and cost 180,000 others. Let's not forget the full accounting. Sound of papers rustling. Dr. Chun, tell me about the dreams again. The ones where you see the city. Dr. York, they're not dreams anymore, Sarah. I can see it from my window here. New Atlanta, the integration zones where the partially recovered live. The organic architecture that wouldn't die when the pathogen was neutralized. It's beautiful in a way that makes my chest tight. Dr. Chun, the integration zones are functioning communities now. Lyron's reports show remarkable adaptation. Dr. York, Lyron laughs weakly. He's become quite the administrator. 20,000 people living in structures that breathe and grow and respond to collective needs. They vote by biochemical consensus now. Did you know that? Their nervous systems still carry enough integration to share emotional states during decision-making. Dr. Chun, how does that make you feel? Dr. York, excluded, isolated, human. Pause. The immunity factor that saved me also ensures I'll never be able to join them, even if I wanted to. I'm permanently locked out of the next phase of human development. Dr. Chun, is that what you think this is? Evolution. Dr. York, I think it's what Maria always intended. She's been very forthcoming in her testimony. Helios Biotech didn't create a weapon, they created a catalyst. The pathogen was designed to integrate with human neural architecture to force an evolutionary leap. The aggression, the hive mind behavior, those were unintended side effects of rushed deployment. Dr. Chun, and now she's facing life imprisonment for crimes against humanity. Doesn't that provide some satisfaction? Dr. York, satisfaction? Coughing fit Sarah. My bone marrow is still recovering from the extraction. I need transfusions twice a week. I'll likely never regain full immune function. Meanwhile, the recovered populations show enhanced cognitive abilities, emotional regulation, and problem-solving skills that surpass baseline human metrics. Who exactly was punished here? Chair creaking. Dr. Chun, you're alive. They're alive. Isn't that enough? Dr. York whispered. Oriel thinks so. Dr. Chun, tell me about your relationship with Ms. Tate. Dr. York, she visits every week. Brings me reports from the Integration Council. That's what they call their governing body now. She's one of the 7 primary coordinators. Her administrative skills translate well to biochemical democracy, apparently. Dr. Chun, how has your relationship changed? Dr. York, she can feel the emotional states of 40,000 people simultaneously. I can barely manage my own anxiety about returning to work. We exist in completely different sensory universes now. When she holds my hand, I can see her trying to reach across that gap. But, long pause. There's no bridge anymore. Dr. Chun, but you still care for each other. Dr. York, we care for the people we used to be. The people who made coffee together in the CDC break room and argued about containment protocols. Those people died in Atlanta. What's left is compatible but different. Papers rustling. Dr. Chun, the review board wants to know if you're prepared to testify before the Congressional Committee on Bioweapons Oversight. Dr. York, prepared? I've been preparing for 6 months. Do you know there are 47 similar facilities worldwide? Helios wasn't biotech subsidiaries in 16 countries, all working on cognitive enhancement projects. The Atlanta breach wasn't an accident, it was a field test. Dr. Chun, that's a serious accusation. Dr. York, it's a serious reality. The Congressional Committee is just theater. Half the representatives demanding answers have stock portfolios that include Helios investments. The real question isn't how to prevent another Atlanta. It's how to manage the next one. Dr. Chun. Next one? Dr. York. Coughing. They're calling it Project Prometheus now. Voluntary cognitive enhancement for military applications. Same pathogen, better delivery system, more refined neural integration. They learned from our mistakes. Dr. Chun. Riven, you sound paranoid. Dr. York. Sarah, 3 weeks ago, Oren sent me classified footage from a facility in Nevada. Test subjects undergoing controlled pathogen exposure with full consent and medical supervision. 96% successful integration, minimal aggression, retained individual identity. They solved the problems we died trying to fix. Long pause. Dr. Chun, what are you saying? Dr. York, I'm saying Atlanta was never supposed to be contained. It was supposed to be studied. The corporate cleanup team wasn't there to suppress evidence. They were there to collect research data before the nuclear option eliminated the test subjects. Dr. Chun, but you stopped them. You saved those people. Dr. York, I saved some of them, the ones who could be saved. But I also provided Helios with the most comprehensive dataset on pathogen reversal ever compiled. Every detail of my immunity factor, every stage of the integration process, every variable that affected recovery rates. They have it all. Dr. Chun. How? Dr. York. Mireya's testimony. She's not facing life imprisonment for creating a bioweapon. She's facing life imprisonment for allowing that bioweapon to escape corporate control. In exchange for a reduced sentence, she's provided them with complete technical specifications for everything we learned in Atlanta. Sound of chair wheels moving. Dr. Chun, I need to report this conversation to Dr. York. To whom? The review board that includes 3 former Helios consultants, the congressional committee chaired by Senator Morrison, whose campaign received $2.3 million from biotech lobbying groups, the CDC director who approved the original pathogen research contract. Dr. Chun, then what do you suggest? Dr. York, I suggest we document everything. Every conversation, every observation, every detail about what happened in Atlanta and what's happening now. Because the next outbreak won't be an accident, and it won't be contained to a single city. Dr. Chun, you're talking about global bioweapons deployment. Dr. York, I'm talking about forced evolution. The integration zones in Atlanta are producing food at 300% efficiency compared to traditional agriculture. They've eliminated crime through emotional consensus. Mental illness is virtually non-existent because the collective neural network provides constant support and regulation. From a utilitarian perspective, the pathogen solved more problems than it created. Dr. Chun, but the cost? Dr. York, the cost was acceptable to them. That's what you're not understanding, Sarah. Atlanta wasn't a disaster to be prevented. It was a proof of concept to be refined. Long pause. Dr. Chun, what do you want from me? Dr. York, I want you to include this conversation in your final report, exactly as recorded. I want the congressional committee to have access to my medical records from the extraction process. And I want you to tell them that Dr. Riven York is prepared to testify about everything: the original pathogen, the corporate cover-up, the ongoing research, and the immunity factor synthesis. Dr. Chun, they'll try to discredit you, claim trauma-induced paranoia, unreliable witness testimony. Dr. York, probably, but Oriel will testify too, and Lyran, and the 7,000 recovered individuals who remember everything that happened during their integration. It's hard to dismiss that many consistent accounts. Dr. Chun, what about the 30% who didn't recover? The ones who chose to remain integrated? Dr. York, they'll testify too in their own way. The Integration Council has been documenting their experiences, their enhanced capabilities, their collective decision-making processes. They want the world to understand that what happened to them wasn't just survival, it was improvement. Dr. Chun, and you? What do you want? Dr. York, coughing fit, then quiet. I want to go home. I want to make coffee in my own kitchen and argue with Oriel about containment protocols. I want to live in a world where bioweapons research is conducted by ethical scientists for humanitarian purposes, not corporate profit. Dr. Chun, that's not the world we live in. Dr. York, no, but it might be the world we die in. The pathogen is still out there, Sarah. Refined, controlled, ready for deployment. The only question is whether humanity gets to choose its own evolution or whether that choice is made for us by people who see us as test subjects. Sound of recording device clicking off. Dr. Chun. Riven, this interview is over. I need to. Dr. York? Sarah? Wait, there's one more thing. About the dreams. Dr. Chun. Yes? Dr. York? They're not dreams. They're transmissions. The integration zones broadcast on a frequency that bypasses normal neural pathways. I can hear them sometimes when the immunosuppressants wear off. They're not trying to convert me. They're trying to warn me. Dr. Chun. Warn you about what? Dr. York. The next outbreak. It's not coming to Atlanta. Atlanta was just the laboratory. The real deployment is scheduled for major population centers worldwide. Simultaneous release, coordinated media blackout, predetermined cleanup protocols. Dr. Chun. When? Dr. York. Whispered soon. The integration zones are picking up increased electromagnetic activity from corporate facilities, construction projects near major airports, personnel movements that match bioweapon deployment patterns. Dr. Chun, I have to report this immediately. Dr. York, report it to whom? The same people who authorized the original research. Sarah, the system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed. The question is whether we're the beneficiaries or the test subjects. Sound of door opening. Dr. York, Sarah, one last thing. When you write your report, include this. Dr. Riven York's final assessment is that humanity stands at an evolutionary crossroads. We can choose conscious adaptation through voluntary enhancement programs, or we can have adaptation forced upon us through corporate bioweapon deployment. Either way, baseline humanity as we've known it is ending. Dr. Chun. And which future do you prefer? Dr. York. I prefer the one where we get to choose, but I fear we're running out of time to make that choice freely. Sound of recording device clicking off. Addendum. Dr. Chen's notes. Patient exhibits signs of complex PTSD but maintains lucid analytical thinking. Recommend continued monitoring and full security clearance for congressional testimony. Note: patient's claims regarding ongoing corporate bioweapons programs require immediate investigation. Security classification: Omega Black. Distribution: Congressional Committee on Bioweapons Oversight. Status: awaiting testimony scheduling. Final entry: Dr. Riven York, personal log. It's been 6 months since Atlanta. The city has become something beautiful and terrible, a living testament to humanity's adaptability. The integration zones thrive, the recovered populations contribute to society in ways we never imagined, and the partially integrated serve as bridges between old and new ways of being human. But I know the truth. Atlanta was never about saving lives or preventing catastrophe. It was about testing the boundaries of human evolution, and we passed the test. The next phase begins soon. I can feel it in the electromagnetic whispers from the integration zones, in the pattern of corporate movements, in the careful way officials discuss population management and cognitive enhancement opportunities. I used to think I was a scientist. Then I thought I was a survivor. Now I understand what I really am: a witness. My immunity isn't a blessing, it's documentation. I'm the control group in humanity's greatest experiment. The question isn't whether we'll survive what's coming. The question is whether what survives will still be recognizably human. And maybe that's not the right question to ask anymore. End transmission. Series complete. Archive status. Distributed.